Boom. Is the Pokemon market a ticking time bomb? And is the Pokemon company the one that's going to light the fuse? Today, we're talking about why and when the Pokemon company is going to overshoot on reprints. Today on PokeMarketLab. All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we get going, housekeeping. Let's talk about Sleep TCG. Link in the description below. That is your one-stop shop for in-stock notification alerts, community tips and tricks. It pays for itself. Check out Sleep TCG, link in the description. And if you're really serious about this hobby, hit that sub button, hit that like button, leave a comment below, and turn notifications on. What are we talking about today? We're talking about the Pokemon company's a big company. They're bringing production online, additional production online. They don't move as nimbly and as quickly as you and I can talk about this stuff. There's a big lag time. My guess is they're probably just now bringing things online. They're just now kind of getting handle on what they want to do, which is why I think this makes sense. I think this is why we see this weird reaction to some from the Pokemon company to some things in the market. We've seen, I've said it before, Paldean Fates completely left untouched. We even saw 151 ETBs left untouched. Since release, essentially, that window seems to have been closed. 151, if you haven't already, now's the time to get as much of that as you can afford if you're okay chasing it, or especially if you missed out. We've seen Twilight Masquerade, Surging Sparks, ETBs hit the market. We've seen not as many booster boxes. You would think ETBs, again, they're really hard to produce. Why not just do booster boxes, get a lot more packs to the market, or just do way more booster bundles? We've seen, I talked about this in my Stellar Crown video, nothing for Stellar Crown. No booster boxes, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've had anything, even booster bundles. It's just odd. And the only thing I can attribute it to, again, is that lag time. Like, these things take time to steer. We don't know exactly how long, but it's on the order of months, potentially 4 to 6 months to kind of get things in the queue. Lean on other manufacturers to assist if they wanted to, right? Contract some of the work out, bring production facilities online, maximize the facilities that you have. You can tomorrow say, well, I want to run this facility 24/7 and maximize every machine. Well, your labor has to line up to that. Your supply chain has to line up to that. Your maintenance has to line up to that, right? Things happen in the production and manufacturing world. So if it took, call it 6 months, for the Pokemon company to be like, oh crap, to actually, they realize what's happening in the market, but whether they can actually change anything about it, it takes time. We call it 6 months, right? They didn't until fairly recently, probably around Prismatic, start really changing things up, starting to be able to put plans in place. I said this before about the, bringing on additional production facilities. Everyone's like, yeah, they can stand that up in a couple months. Yeah, you're wrong. You're completely wrong. It takes a lot longer. They can stand up a facility in a couple months, but the equipment, the people to put in, the planning and everything, even if you throw money at it, it takes a significant amount of time. And there's also the concern there where once you put CapEx into a facility, into an operating line, that shifts over. There's the capital expenditure, which is a fixed cost essentially, but then it moves over to OpEx, right? And that OpEx is something that you're going to hold on to forever, essentially, right? So you have to be very certain that that pattern, that volume, that demand is going to sustain for a long period of time, because you're going to have that OpEx, and never mind the amortization of the CapEx, right? So if you can't make that work, if suddenly the demand drops off within even a year or two, you haven't amortized your CapEx, and your OpEx, you're screwed on. And it's not an easy decision. And the Pokemon company there's a fine line. I would not want to be in charge of the Pokemon company in terms of determining how much in the way a print runs, right? And I've said this before. We talk about this all the time. This is a speculative market. I don't care who you are. Like, most of the people in this market right now, the money, I shouldn't say the people, the amount of money in the market right now, if you were to look at a pie chart of the amount of money in the market, the sponge, so to speak, my guess, I don't have any data to back this up, most of it would be speculation. And so again, that piece of the pie chart will disappear if we ever had, like we saw in 2021, a Fusion Strike situation where it's a great set. The Pokemon company prints so much of it, no one cares. It becomes dirt cheap. It becomes toxic. It becomes no one wants it. That has happened before on Fusion Strike, which is now a $1,000 box. It's a fantastic set. It always was. But there's a lot of this industry. There's a lot of this hobby that associates the price of that box with how much it's actually worth, regardless of the intrinsic value, regardless of the set. And I think I'm not saying that's right. It's not. And as an investor, you can absolutely, and I've done this, I've talked about this many times. I'm not a smart wizard or anything like that. I've made my money in this hobby by being a contrarian investor, buying boxes that were under $100 on TikTok, on secondary market, all the time. And it was very easy. I said to myself, I don't think it's a bad set. This looks pretty good. And I bought a bunch of it. I didn't do that for Scarlet and Violet base. I don't think it's a great set. And it's performed as such. So my point here is that there's going to be a catalyst at some point that's going to flush out the speculators. My guess is I don't think it's going to be a softening of the market. My guess is it would be exogenous to the market. It would be some economic condition. Could be a flood of reprints. That's possible. Although I don't think, what we've seen so far, again, going back to Surging Sparks and Twilight Masquerade ETBs, it's been isolated, right? That product has dropped in price. There's been zero spillover to even the other products in that set, right? So the confidence in the market is still extremely high. So I made a little chart here just to kind of do a hypothetical reprint overshoot and what I'm talking about. That lag time, meaning when the market starts to soften, there's already going to have been product produced, products planned to be produced, CapEx and OpEx associated with products that are in the pipeline, so to speak. So say we're here, say we're on the climb here, and maybe let's talk about a hypothetical pullback in the market. Okay, I'm not saying this is going to happen. It may never happen. It may never happen, even in my interest of Pokemon. This may go on for years. Okay, I'm not saying a crash is imminent or anything like that. I'm just saying when it does happen, I think this is going to be the way it happens. So say we hit this top here, this gold line. This is the market index, demand and price, right? And say something happens in the economy. I don't know. We get a couple bad jobs reports. We get some layoffs. We get some, poor GDP, whatever, some economic data where things start to become a little shaky. It doesn't need to be a crash or anything like that. It's enough to spill over from, say, the stock market, crypto, and everything back into Pokemon, and the confidence starts to erode. So say that confidence starts to erode. We get a little bit of panic selling. People start to kind of dump out here, right? Look at this lag time. This 6-month window, right? Could be a long time that the Pokemon company is still pumping product out. They were planning on this market continuing, right? And they can't just shut that line off. They have supply chain they've already paid for. They're not going to just take the hit on that cost. They're not just going to fire people right away. They have, again, capital expenditure. They've already, they need to amortize over the course of years. They're going to keep producing that stuff. And when that stuff hits the market, if we're already kind of on the downslope, right? Remember, I said a lot of the market, I think a good chunk of the money in the market is speculative. It's here because they're here to make money. And again, if that ceases to be true, okay, maybe it's resilient enough. Maybe a small pullback is fine, right? That's fine. We've seen that. We've seen some small pullbacks. I don't want to say small pullbacks. The Surging Sparks boxes, the Twilight Masquerade, that was pretty significant. So you saw that capitulation, meaning people are like, oh crap, this thing's dropping out from underneath me. I need to get out while I'm hot. You got all these botters that need margin. You got scalpers that need margin, right? Their whole business model is turn and burn with margin or volume. So again, unless you have a huge amount of people flood into the market to kind of buoy and pick up that supply as it hits the market, it's going to be a problem. And it's going to drop out from underneath you real quick. So that in and of itself isn't good. But what happens when, again, for a period of time, months, the Pokemon company keeps pushing product to market? So this is the blue line here is the printing volume. It's going to take several months, possibly 6 months, for them to be like, oh crap, to essentially flush out, for that switch to turn off on those production lines. Maybe they go down in shifts or something like that, right? And for that product to start to wane. And so essentially what it would do is would cause that product hitting the market at a certain time would cause that market to just drop hard. It would completely erode any small pullback in the market, and we continue to see reprints hit the market in volume is going to essentially add fuel to the fire. And at that point, all you can rely on is the organic demand, the rip and shippers. I would even say the rip and shippers, to a certain extent, it's all lottery. People want that instant gratification. If those singles values are not there, rip and ship is going to fall off a cliff too. That's not, there's always going to be rip and ship. There's always going to be organic demand, but that lottery, if that ceases to exist or that pulls back, that's going to be a problem as well. So you're relying, that demand at the bottom of that's holding everything up becomes organic demand only. That's the only thing you can rely on. And if enough product hits the market at a quick enough pace, there's not enough of that demand there. You're going to have some whales, and everyone and myself like, hey, this is opportunity. I'm going to jump in, i.e., again, temporal, forces boxes, paradox rift boxes, obsidian flame boxes, even Paldea evolved boxes, $100 under $100, and people are going to jump in. There's a lot of people like, well, jig's up. I can't make money on it anymore, so I'm out. And I'm going to turn and burn. I don't want to wait. I'm not just going to let my stuff sit on the shelf and wait years for this to come back up. I'm going to go do something else. And this is, I'm just trying to explain what this could look like. Again, this is not a guarantee. This has happened before. We do have that. Again, Fusion Strike booster boxes. I don't think people understand enough that the booster box price, the box price right now, is the value. Long term, that's not going to be the case. Long term, the Pokemon Company knows it's the cards, it's the confidence in the market. That is the value. And again, you could, in the short term, the Pokemon Company is in a really hard spot because you want to get product to market, to get it in the hands of people who actually enjoy it, and people who are going to be here long term, and just the actual collectors, people love it, right? Not just speculators. But at the same time, you got to be careful, because if you go too far the other way, you cheapen your product. That confidence, really, at the end of the day, that's what the Pokemon's selling. In terms of long-term value, it's the confidence. Look at Fusion Strike. Fusion Strike took a long time. It took a long time to bounce back. And it got, again, $80 boxes. That's like, whoa, that's really cheap. That's really cheap. So, I guess the question is, what can we do about this? It's not really much you can do. The biggest thing you can train yourself for is, and ask yourself the question, what happens if that market collapses? Are you going to sell off? Are you going to hold the line? Are you truly going to be here for a long period of time? I am very much okay buying secondary market prices. I keep saying this dollar cost average. I'm okay with it sitting sideways, going down, going up. I've been in the market long enough. I'm going to be in the market long enough. It doesn't matter to me. But again, how many of you are here? Do you like the product? Do you like the fact that you can make money from the product? And I would say, again, I want people viewing this channel who enjoy the product at the end of the day. Because if you know the product, you enjoy the product, you open the product, you are far more in tune with the market. Like I said before, picking sets and everything, it's not hard. It's not rocket surgery. That's a pun, by the way, rocket surgery, brain surgery and rocket science mixed together. It doesn't take much to figure it out. Right? Just look at the cards. It's not hard. You can pick, you know what sets are stinkers and not, right? But I'm pretty confident this is how it's going to go. This is not a small company. There's a massive distribution network. There's product to move. Again, there's CapEx, there's OpEx, there's a lot of things. We're talking tens of billions of cards a year, right? Approaching 100 billion cards a year. It's a lot of product. The Pokemon Company is just it's a big beast to move. I liken it to a ship. It's very hard. It's like the Titanic. I don't know if I should say that, but it's very hard to steer. It's slow to steer. And so they're probably, again, we've seen it before. Why won't it happen again? The only question again is whether the market continues to march on. There's no end in sight right now. Just be careful. There's really not. This is more informative. Maybe not as actionable as some of my other videos. Again, just want you to get you thinking and get you in a more of a wider mindset. Kind of zoom out. Kind of talk about history a bit. Kind of talk about market fundamentals. Just so you know, because this type of market that we're in kind of jades you in a way to thinking this is always the way it's going to be. And it's certainly, you don't want to miss out on this market, but you just got to be careful thinking it's going to go on forever. The train's going to stop at some point. Again, 6 months, 6 years, who knows? But I think it could kind of look like this. So let me know what you think of this video in the comments section below, whether you like it or dislike it, or have any comments. You could also hit me up at PokeMarketLab@gmail.com if you got any questions, more long-form questions that are just too long for a YouTube video. And with that, we're going to see you on the next one. PokeMarket Lab,